TrollHunters Part 2 has finally arrived on Netflix and is the follow-up to Part 1. Jim is in the Dark Lands trying to save Claire's baby brother, and after they escape, they find out that the mighty Gunmar, who was frequently mentioned in Part 1, has come into our world with Blinky's thought to have been dead brother, who surprisingly enough is voiced by the Joker and Luke Skywalker? I was really looking forward to this new chapter, especially after hearing the announcement that this show is actually the beginning of a whole Netflix cartoon universe called The Tales of Arcadia, and it's starting off with this show, TrollHunters. Then next year, it continues with a show about aliens called Three Below, and then again in 2019 with a show called Wizards, which is about, well, wizards. And I just hope that it actually happens, unlike how Sony tried to do with Spider-Man. But anyways, on with this new season. Now, I can safely say that I do consider this one to be almost as good as the first. First, my pros. The late Anton Yelchin, of course, still did a good job. It's just going to be hard to wait for Season 3, as they have confirmed that Jim will be recast. Also, in my review for Season 1, there were a few characters I wanted to mention, but I didn't. And one of those characters was Nomura. And the reason I liked her a lot in Season 1, even with her not being given too much screen time, was because of how skilled she was when it came to fighting. Just spinning and spinning and spinning and spinning. Also, how she lets her prey know she's near by whistling that dark song. And also because she has a sweet bod. It was just nice to see her again. And I'm also really glad that both she and Mr. Strickler are both going to return in Part 3 to help Jim on the rest of his journey. And I also thought it was pretty awesome that they were able to bring Mark Hamill into this universe. He plays Dictatious, and he's Blinky's evil brother, and he does a really good job at almost sounding like Kelsey Grammer. Now, this season is also kind of shorter compared to the first season, and still has some great episodes. However, there was one episode which I honestly thought was the very first bad episode of the show. It's called The Reckless Club, and it's clearly a parody of The Breakfast Club. Because in this episode, Jim, Toby, Claire, Eli, Steve, and a couple other characters are put in detention. And it just feels lazy. Though it does give us this great scene where Jim tries to take a draw out of Gunmar's control. It's a great scene, but it isn't enough to save this throwaway episode. Though my favorite episode in this season would have to be Mistrial and Error, because it has the biggest twist I had ever seen in a cartoon, and even kills off one character I did not expect to die yet. My jaw was on the floor. It was truly a dark and moving episode. And there was also one thing that I'm really happy they did, which the first season did not. They actually animate tears on the characters when they're sad. In Season 1, there were some sad moments, but there were no tears at all, which I thought was strange. But here, there's enough tears to notice. That was a huge improvement in the first season. I will so give them that. So, TrollHunters Part 2. It's about as fun as the first, and let's just hope Season 3, or even 3 Below, will also be as good. I'd give it an 8 out of 10. Fun as the first, except for that one bad episode. Well, that's all for the day. Peace out, and remember, for the doom of Gunmar, Eclipse is mine to command.